I know I said I wasn't going to buy any more yarn. Hello and welcome to my podcast. I'm Naomi and this is NJ Knits, where I talk about my knitting. So please be welcome. Come and be welcome. It is shaping up to be a beautifully sunny Friday, and I've just got out of the shower, so my hair is unruly. But I've got a few minutes and I wanted to share with you what I've been up to this week. I've got an FO for you. I've got some whips coming up in here, and I've got a few acquisitions. So let's tuck in. I hope you have something lovely to drink. I couldn't be bothered making myself tea this morning. It's very bad behavior. Anyway, I hope you have something. Please feel free to subscribe and comment. I love to see what you're up to, what you're making, what your thoughts and ideas on my many questions that inevitably come up are. And I love to hear from you, so please do subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is at Naomi Joy Knits, and my Ravelry is NJ Knits Podcast. So come and say hi. And here we go. I know last week, when I was editing last week's video, how I went out of order. And I apologize to anyone who felt that quite disruptive. That person was me. I felt it disruptive. I watched it and I was like, this is disrupting my flow. I'm feeling disrupted. So anyways, I hope it wasn't too disruptive for you. But I will show you I really, really want to go backwards again. I'm just going to do it. You have to follow your heart. You have to follow what feels good inside for you. Maybe it's because people don't like to see acquisitions. They put them at the end. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to show you some of my acquisitions. No, I'm not. I'm going to be reasonable. I don't know why following what everyone else is doing is reasonable, but we're social beings, right? I was reading about this, concept that as social beings, we find it dangerous. Like in the past, it would have been dangerous for us to have been not part of the group, to have been kicked out, ostracized. It could have meant that you didn't get fed, you didn't eat, you actually didn't survive if you were ostracized. So we have this sort of like inbuilt into our body, this desire to sort of be accepted by the group, and our body puts on like a proper stress reaction when it feels like we're not doing things that will make us accepted by the group, as if it's being chased by a tiger, because in a sort of biological sense, your body kind of thinks it's being chased by a tiger if you're not conforming and not being accepted or doing things that the group's going to be angry with you for. Your body's like, we won't get fed, we'll die, and so it'll put you in a stress reaction when you feel like you're being, when you feel like you're not fitting in with the group, or when you feel like you might be ostracized. So when you're like when one may be really worrying about, say, whether something you said bothered someone or whether you did the right thing in certain situations, that's your body trying to like keep you part of the group so that you'll be fed. And it's actually kind of relaxing to know that like there's sort of a purpose to that, and that's why you freak out at these types of things. Anyway, so I will show you my whips. So here are my socks, my cashmere possum socks. This is the one I had finished before. I had the cuff finished, didn't get super far. I just did that much, but that was, I didn't do a ton of knitting with when my partner was here. I was mostly just hanging out with my partner. So that's that. And I did break out the historical whip. So here's my Gibson Ruffle blouse. I only broke it out yesterday, so I haven't done much on it. But I did break it out, so that's a good thing. I'm still thinking about how I can cut down here. The reason I want to cut, as a reminder, is because this is too small for my head. It just fits over, but it's a serious struggle. And this is alpaca, so it's not very stretchy fibers. It's quite non-elastic fibers. So because there's this button hole, this lovely little button loop, and a place to put a button on the back here, that's the concept. I just thought, well, if I can cut it down further, it'll open up more. And then I can still have the button. It'll just be a longer keyhole. I just need to work out how to cut down and not have my jumper unravel. So that's what I wake up at night thinking about. So here's my sleeve. These are my markers that I use to show where I decreased, so I can copy it on the other side, because Lord knows I'm not going to be making notes. I'm very bad at making notes. I do try. It's not like I don't want to, but it just, you know, when you try and you try and you try and things just don't happen, there's a certain time at which you have to accept. You don't have to, but there's a certain time at which I find it comforting to accept that actually this is probably just not the way I function. And that's fine. That's okay. There's no need to function in a certain way, really, ever, apart from, you know, some basic societal rules. I think I'm just going to make this the same length as this. I'll double check what the pattern says to do, but I think that's what I'm going to do. It's potentially meant to be longer, but I'll do that and then I'll see what I think. So that's this. There's going to be, when I finish the other sleeve, there's going to be a ruffle that comes along here. And I was originally planning to do that with the alpaca because it's very lace weight and it's very sort of, you could make a ruffle with that. But I then thought, well, maybe I want a mohair ruffle. So I went to the yarn shop and I got some mohair, but I didn't bring this with me. So that's pretty true. I don't love that. So, oh no, I have a random ball of mohair. Oh no. It's not going to work with this. However, I don't know if I want to combine it with the knitting for olive mohair that I have, because it's so much softer. This is, they're both soft silk mohair. This is Osterman Kid Silk, and it is 75% mohair, 25% silk. And this is 70% mohair, 30% silk. But the difference in softness, let me tell you, is pretty real. Also, I think the fibers are much longer on this one, if you can see. They're longer and coarser, for sure. This has 225 meters for 25 grams, and so does this. So they're the same. You can see this one's a little bit bigger, but I think that is because the fibers are longer and thicker on it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this, but it would be a nice thing to add to something, potentially. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to use it for the ruffle on this. I might try to find some matching mohair that matches this, or I might just do what I originally planned. We shall see. You can tell I've been watching Knitting Traditions. We shall see. So that is that. That whip. I was going so hard on that, on my Minerva tea, that I really didn't have any other whips, and then I had my palette cleanser whip. So those are my only whips at the moment. It's a little bit odd. I'm about to get on a plane this evening and then a plane at the weekend. So I'm like, I think technically a pair of socks and a sleeve on a jumper is enough to see me through a weekend, but it still feels a little bit... Although I'm going home, so I think I'm going to pick up some sock yarn, because I am having the itch to make some socks, and potentially maybe some colorwork socks. I have a load of scraps that have been accumulating from my travels and the knits I've been doing, so I'm thinking I want to do something scrappy, possibly. So we'll see what happens with that. Problem is my scraps tend to be all over the place in terms of weight and colors. So I don't know. One thing I thought about that blue mohair was it would make a really cute honey clutch. I was kind of wanting to make one of those honey clutches from Petite Knit. Not that I ever use a clutch. Not that I think a knitted clutch is a particularly practical idea. I just think they're so beautiful. And it would definitely make a cute gift for someone. Most certainly. And they just look fun to knit, so I think I'd love to do that, but I'm not 100%. I'm in a weird sort of no man's land of what I'm going to knit next. I think it's probably going to be a hat I'm going to start on. But anyways, okay, that's it. I've been holding off to show you my whip, or my finished object, for so long, so here it is. The ends are woven, it's been blocked. I even, and this is one of my acquisitions, someone at work so beautifully went to Flying Tiger and got me little tags. So this one says, I made this. And she got me a couple other things. Tiger is like supplying knitting stuff. They're like, this is a thing now. So these are the labels from Flying Tiger. They say handmade with heart, handmade with love. I made this, which I put on that one. This took me hours to make, which I love. And I almost died making this, which is fabulous. So these little labels. It doesn't say here whether they're vegan or not. Yeah. Maybe it says on the inside. I'm not sure if they're leather or if they're vegan. Then she also got me, how funny is that? I just bought one like a week before and she got me one. How sweet. So, you know, if I ever have more than 3 color knitting, I could put 2 on my finger maybe. That would be actually quite cool. We'll see. And then these little stitch markers, which I've actually never seen before. And I was a little bit like, are those going to work? But they're little hearts. And they're plastic stitch markers. And they're basically like, you put that in there. And then they're a little fiddly. If you can see. They go in like that. So it's like, oops. It's like, sort of like that. And then, I don't know. I'm uncertain as to whether I'm confident these things will stay closed when you close them. There we go. You have to like properly like push them on the table and then they're like really closed. So maybe I'll just close them all and have them as closed stitch markers that if absolute need be, you can open them up and take them out. But they're a bit like the sort of safety pinny looking plastic stitch markers. So how cute is that? I was so thankful. She was so lovely to have gotten that for me. Oh, this actually has 2 in it. I haven't actually opened this to look at it. It's got 2 in it, so I've got 3 now. Goodness gracious. This is a big one. And this is a smaller one. Ha! Neither of them fit my finger. Well, I suppose this one fits the front bit of my finger, which is presumably what you want it to be on. Very nice. I suppose you could like tighten this up if you really wanted to. I don't know how difficult that would be. Probably quite difficult. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. And anyway, sorry, I'm sharing my acquisitions at the wrong time again. I'm gonna be kicked out of the group. No, it was just to say that it has a label in it even. It's blocked, it's washed, has a label. It's inside out because I just finished sewing the label in. My ends are woven in. It's all done. So I'm going to try it on. I haven't tried it on since blocking. I did try it on before I blocked it and I liked it. And then I blocked it to make the sleeves a little bit looser, hopefully, and the body a little bit longer, which was my goal. In the end, I did not do a rolled folded collar. I just did it as the pattern specified. So let's have a look at how it looks. It's knit on 6.5mm needles with 2 DK weight or sport weight balls of yarn held together, and I'll show you my leftovers. Beep. So I won the yarn chicken. Not at all proud of myself. Not at all. It was the fastest jumper I've ever made. I did the sleeves, 1 sleeve each day on work days. I think they were work days. Maybe one of them wasn't. But it was so fast. 6.5mm needles, bulky weight wool, and also it's a cropped jumper. So, and it was also so simple. The pattern was like the simplest thing I've ever read. So here it is. It's got this beautifully big roll neck, which I think this is kind of what it would have looked like if I had done like a folded collar. But I thought, why do one when you could have 2? So this is the sort of folded collar look. This is I want a cowl on my jumper. And then this, I think this is kind of how she wears it in the pattern, like on the pictures in the pattern, kind of folded this way around. The sleeves are the perfect length. They're nice and long around my wrists and tight, but then they're loose enough that I can flip them and have them be bracelet length, which I like because if it's not super cold, I like that because I can look at my watch, and I like not feeling things, sort of like, I know I just said I love having tight cuffs around my wrists, but I also kind of, at the same time, really like not feeling stuff on top of other things on my body. It's looking slightly lumpy, but I think that's because I have a big t-shirt on at the moment. So this is it. It's gorgeous. I love the detail at the yoke. The yoke was super easy and fun. This is the length. I have kind of a cropped t-shirt on at the moment. So it kind of sits just over the t-shirt. I have high-waisted trousers on, and if I tuck my t-shirt in, it sits like that. So it did stretch in, like, from washing, as I thought it would, because it is superwash. So I think it will only grow more, to be fair. which I'm not opposed to. I do like the look of a cropped jumper, but the practicality of a cropped jumper isn't always perfect for me. So I like that this is kind of almost cropped, but not quite cropped. Still a tiny bit wet on the sleeves. So yeah, this is my Carbeth jumper, Carbeth jumper, which I'm just incredibly couldn't be more pleased about. I'm so pleased. And that's my finished object for this week. I can't believe how quickly I made this jumper, especially after like a fingering weight, collar work, lace work, cables, t-shirt. This was just like, ta-da! I was kind of obsessive about it. I'd like wake up thinking about getting a few rows in on it and go to sleep being like sort of almost dreaming about it. Didn't it all get slightly obsessed? This is my acquisition. I showed you my other one, the Mohair and the Flying Tiger items. But this I ordered. Why did I order it? I found out about it and I just thought, this is what I want. I've been wanting some wool like this for a long time. Feels like a long time. Probably not calendar year wise a very long time, but the desire has been in me. It's basically like a worsted spun wool. Not worsted. I always say worsted when I mean woolen spun. I love woolen spun fiber and yarn, and I was talking about it a few podcasts back. Shetland. I have two Shetland jumpers from when I was a kid that my parents got me. And they're both, I think they're both woolen spun. Definitely the pink one that I have is. And I was talking about why woolen spun is warmer than worsted spun. So the difference is, it's in my past, one of my past, I think it's in the London podcast. I'll put a link there. I chat about it at length in the London one. But essentially, like, I was saying to someone recently that I find superwash to be less warm, which is kind of nice. Sometimes if you want something that's not like going to overheat you, superwash is good. And I think the reason why superwash isn't as warm is because to make something superwash, you have to remove the scales off the fiber of the wool. And the scales off the fiber of the wool, that's what makes wool felt. And it's, I think, what also makes it shrink. Actually, I don't know if that's true, but the scales definitely are what makes it felt. So it's the same property that we have in like human hair, which is why you can make dreads out of human hair, because there's little scales on the fibers of our hair. And if you rub those scales together, they basically lock together, almost like a little puzzle piece. And that's what makes it felt. So with superwash, they don't want the fiber to felt in the heat and the rubbiness of a washing machine. So they either shave off the scales or they glue the scales down chemically at a like molecular level. And that means that the wool fibers are smooth and they don't ever lock together like puzzle pieces. And so that's what makes superwash feel that like slidey, slippery feeling. And it's what makes it, washable. It's also what makes it a lot softer, I think, potentially, because those scales can also maybe irritate because they're like little spiky sideways scales. And when you don't have them, the fiber is much less has much less potential irritation to the skin. But my theory is that, and it's only a theory because I haven't bothered to Google it. It's not like it's a revolutionary theory. But I think superwash is less warm for the same reason, because warmth is created by trapping heat in a place. And we trap heat, trapping hot air. So when you put something, when you have a naked piece of body, like your hand, it creates heat, and then the heat immediately wants to warm up something that's colder than it. So it warms up the cold air around it. So it leaves your hand. Your hand is creating it, and then the heat goes off into the cold air to try and warm up the cold air, which is, it's just a useless task. And I don't know why my hand is trying to do that, but my hand is, and it's sad. So your hand creates heat, and then the heat goes off to try and warm up the world because it's a martyr. And your hand is not warm. But what you do is you try and trap the heat that your hand's creating with clothing. So you put a glove on, and then the heat, your hand creates heat, and then the heat kind of hot air stays near your hand to keep it warm. And the reason why like puffer jackets are really warm is because they have a lot of air. There's feathers which have loads of air in between them, and they trap the heat, but there's lots of space for the air to sit there. So you have a lot more hot air near your body. When you have something thick and heavy, that keeps the cold air from like touching your hot air that you've created, but it doesn't necessarily give you a lot of space for your hot air. So that's like on a big level. On a small level with like wool fibers, if the wool fiber has lots of scales, my theory is that it has more space for hot air. And if the wool fiber is smooth, it doesn't have as much space for hot air. And it just kind of connects, it sits next to other fibers. So that's like the tiny, tiny level, the little molecular fiber levels. And then if you zoom out a tiny bit onto just yarn in general, the reason why things like mohair that has a fluffy level is much warmer is because it has all that, it's trapping all that hot air around. There's space for lots of hot air to hang out. So then if you have worsted spun wool versus woolen spun wool, worsted spun, the fibers are all going in the same direction and they're like all next to each other, so less air. Woolen spun wool, the fibers are all going all over the place. So because they're all going all over the place, there's a lot more space for hot air to sit in. So if you look at this wool versus, say, this wool, this is knitting for Olive Merino, you can see the fibers are kind of all lined up and even, and there's basically less space for air inside of the fibers here. And if you look at this wool, which I just got, it's more loosely spun, but it's also, you can just tell almost just by looking at it that there's a lot more space for hot air to hang out inside of this wool. I don't know. Lots of people have explained it better and shown better videos about it. But anyways, the point is, I really wanted some woolen spun wool. And I got this. I found Biches and Buches, which is a company in Scandinavian couple living in France and spinning and selling and dyeing Scottish wool, lamb's wool. I mean, it's so dreamy. I'm so excited about it. It's so beautiful. It's soft. I can tell it's going to bloom loads. And woolen spun wool tends to bloom because, I guess because there's less, I reckon the reason it blooms versus worsted spun, all the fibers are combed in the same direction. So it's like if your hair is like nice and combed and like flat and then you get it wet and wash it, I don't know, it's like if you have like plaited your hair and then you wash it, it kind of comes out from the wash and it's still in a plait. But if you have your hair like, I don't know, this is a bad metaphor, let's leave the hair metaphor. The point is, worsted spun wool, the wool's all like this, you wash it, there's not a lot of places for the wool to go because it's all touching, all the fibers are touching one another, so like they can't really poof out because they're kind of almost trapping one another in place. So there's less poof that happens with worsted spun wool. Whereas woolen spun, the fibers are all going in different directions. So there's, again, lots of air in between where the fibers are. So when you wash the fibers, they can kind of poof out because they have space to do so. These are all theories, but anyways. I got 6 balls of this. This is called Le Petite Lambswool. They also have Le Gros Lambswool, which is, I think like worsted weight or bigger. Aran weight, I think it's Aran weight. This is fingering weight. And then they just came out with Le Lambswool, which I think is more like a worsted weight or a DK weight. And I really want to get some, because I want to get some to make either a LB hand knits is it called grasslands? I'll find it and put it up. Or a Junko Okomoto pattern. And I don't know which one, but I'm obsessed with the one with the little poppies on it. Obsessed. But I don't know. I do want to buy some more of this because I absolutely love it, but I thought to myself, oh, it's a European company. If I buy it while I'm in Prague, then I won't have to pay like all the VAT and the, you know, new things that you have to pay now living in the UK. So the point is that this is Biches and Buches Le Petite Lambswool. It is a fingering weight yarn. It is 50 grams and you get 248 meters. And that's another point. No, that's not. Never mind. I think because of that fact that there's more air in the wool, you kind of can get more meterage from woolen spun yarn for the weight. I think. Let's see. Shall we find out? These are similar thicknesses of yarn. This yarn is 50 grams, 250 meters. No, that was the theory and it is proven wrong. Same meterage for grammage here. Anyways, I got 6 balls of this. So that's more than enough to make a wool and honey jumper, which I am so excited to make. Although I'm feeling like I'm not ready to cast it on yet. I'm feeling like I want to cast something else on first. So I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to work on my socks, try and finish my Gibson Ruffle blouse. I'm feeling like I need to go home and do a little stash dive is what I'm feeling. And maybe when I come back, get started on this wool and honey jumper. I'm so excited. I'm obsessed with this wool. It's just, I kind of just want to buy like all of this wool and just make all of the jumpers. Just not like plain, simple crew neck jumper, just everything. But that is what I'm going to encourage myself not to do, because I'm going to try to use up what I have. So that's me. I hope you have a fantastic week, whenever I manage to get this out, and I will see you anon. This was a surprisingly quick one, but I suppose I haven't had that many whips. I've been very focused in my knitting and not as scattered. But yeah, join my knit along. I'm doing a Not Obstructed by Perfection knit along. We'll be drawing some prizes. We're doing it until the end of the year. And it's just a knit along where we sort of carry on the mindset of not stopping ourselves because of any desire to make things too perfect. So don't obstruct yourself with perfection. Just give it a go, give it a try. And make a Carbeth jumper. If you like this, do it, because it's so easy and it was so quick. I would say for someone who's never made a jumper before, this is 100% your man. Like, it was so easy to do. There's no shaping in it. In the body, there's no shaping in the body. It's very simple, just increases up the arm. You can try it on as you go. And then when you join in the round, this is so simple to do. It is unbelievably simple. It's actually easier than doing raglan or any other type of shaping I've ever done on a jumper before. it's easier and less difficult to forget and do the wrong thing. And then you don't have to pick up any stitches. You never pick up stitches. You put these stitches on hold. There's no picking up of stitches, so that makes it really easy. There's everything, it's just all in one, basically. You do have to make your sleeves separately because it's bottom up, but it's the pattern is 1 page long. 1 page of pattern. It's so simple, so easy. Go off and maketh the Carbeth. I really want to make the cardigan version as well, but I want to make that in a woolly yarn, not in a superwash. But I think I'm happy with having this in a superwash. I was a little bit worried about it, but I'm quite happy. So yeah, so join me in my Not Obstructed by Perfection knit along. Use the hashtag on Instagram and tag me in your makes, and I will be drawing a prize at some point. What prize is? We shall see. Until then, have a lovely time. I hope you enjoy some crafting of choice and some time to yourself, because that's very important. That's how we recharge, and I suppose as knitters we really know that, don't we? I was thinking about, this is a little side thought, I've been reading a book called Wild Power. It's very, very intense, I would say. Not intense, it's a book about, I've already recommended Period Power, which is phenomenal. And this one is, I'd say, like the more spiritual version of Period Power. It's very much like about like your inner temple and your soul and these kinds of things. Which I hesitate to like condescend about, because it's perfectly reasonable way of talking. May not be the way that you talk or I talk or you generally read things, but perfectly reasonable way of talking about things, souls and inner temples, etc. The point is, I always think that there's things to be gleaned from something, even if it sort of like is delivered to you in a way that makes you go, ooh, that's weird. There's still lots of wisdom to be gleaned. So anyways, in this book, they're talking about sort of like the cycle, like a female sort of cycle that goes through, there's a time when you're feeling very outward and very like can do and very nurturing and like can like helping other people. And then they're talking about how there's times when you need to kind of look inwards and kind of pull back from everyone else and sort of just be with yourself, and you're not as naturally easy to sort of like, give everything to someone else, like mothering or just being, selfless. There's times when you just kind of need to look after yourself for a bit, and then it's sort of cyclical. So, that helps refuel you so you can go back to being really productive and helping other people and being very selfless, etc. So it's a cycle, and if you don't look after one or the other end of that cycle, it can kind of get out of balance. And so, obviously our society really values people being productive and people being, and especially women being very selfless towards the kids and mothering and that kind of thing. So there's a tendency for women to kind of forget about the side of like needing to shut people out and just needing to take care of themselves and needing to really look after themselves and give themselves a break and a breather. And I was thinking about knitting and how it kind of goes through the whole of that like sort of female cycle, because it has all of those elements to it. So it's got that like productivity element. So when you're feeling very outward and like, yeah, that's like the like knitting all the time and getting things finished and doing all like finishing things and making things for other people and the gift knits. But it's also like the production, like literally just the production that you're making something. That's productivity. That's very outward and very, but then it also has this meditative, contemplative thing about it, which is very self-caring and very like inward looking and very like separated from the world and with us, like there's this like just being with yourself and just relaxing and letting go of things and just knitting. So it's interesting how that kind of like there's this like cycle, and knitting kind of just like rolls along with that cycle and kind of can do both sides of those things. That was just a thought I had earlier. Thought I'd share. Anyway, tell me what you think about anything that you've heard here today, or just say hi. I hope you're having a great week, and I hope that you find a little moment, even if it's 45 seconds, to stop and give yourself a little breath and I don't know, something you like. Tea, biscuit, something nice. Give yourself a little love. All right. See you later.